the clerk for this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterwards through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, publicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet. So if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice, which is urbanforestry@sftpw.org. If you'd like to be on the contact list, please type and send your email address in the chat or send an email to urbanforestry@sftpw.org. This public hearing is being held to consider 6 items regarding tree fines under Public Works jurisdiction. We intend to go through the items in the order posted on the website and being shared on the screen. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing items, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them, and if you have the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for 6 cases. I'm not seeing the agenda. Okay, there it goes.
Are you able to see? Okay.
Yes, now I see. Order number, I'm gonna have to put on my, order number 203850, address 2234 35th Avenue. Order number 203851, address 373 6th Avenue. Order number 203852, 553 15th Avenue. Order number 203853, address 166 Albion Street. Order number 203854, address 875 Rhode Island Street. Order number 203855, address 16 Merced Avenue. Those are the items that are being considered. I will add first and present the case. Are we ready for the first order?
Yes. So sorry, cut out a little bit. Am I up?
Yes.
Okay,
And
let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So can everyone see the?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And everyone can hear me all right. Nice. Okay, so my name is Madeline Farquhar, and I'm an urban forestry inspector with the Bureau of Urban Forestry with the Department of Public Works, San Francisco. What I'm going to be doing today is giving you an overview of all the cases. But before that, I'm going to talk about the code that dictates why we issue these fines and kind of explain a little bit more about why some of these practices are so harmful and why they merit fines as a part of our code. So this is an administrative hearing to go over fines issued for illegal pruning, illegal removal, and in some cases failure to protect during construction projects. So I'm just going to go through some of the code so everybody is very clear about, why we issue these fines and what the language is behind our code. So Public Works Code Article 16 is called the Urban Forestry Ordinance. It's what we use on our day-to-day jobs to dictate these fines. Section 808 is the protection of trees and landscape material. So it shall be unlawful for any person to intentionally, maliciously, or through gross negligence injure or destroy a street tree, any tree on city property, a significant tree, or a landmark tree. Removal of a tree under city ordinance or removal in accordance with a permit issued pursuant to section 806, 810, or 810A of this article is exempt from this prohibition. Also want to go over what the requirements are after a removal, whether illegal or legal. So pretty much whenever we remove a street tree or significant tree, it's required to replace it in kind. So section 806 lays out in the red text, if the department grants a tree removal permit, it shall require that a street tree or trees of equivalent replacement value to the one removed be planted in place of the removed tree or impose an in lieu fee. So if there's for some reason we can't replace the tree in the same location or in any other location on that property, then we impose an in lieu fee, which goes into a tree planting fund for other parts of the city. This covers, this is another section, part of section 808, talk about construction work around street trees and what's required in terms of protection of those trees. There's a couple of the cases that deal with this. So if excavation, construction, or street work is planned within the drip line of a significant tree, a landmark tree, or a tree on any street or other publicly owned property, said trees shall be adequately protected. If any construction work results in the injury or damage of such trees, the responsible parties may be subject to penalties. So that's the fines we're talking about today. And also quickly want to go over the definition of what we consider an injury and what we consider, a fine-worthy offense in terms of damaging trees. So section 802 is the definition of the injury of a tree. Injure or injury shall mean any act which harms or damages a tree, including but not limited to impact, cutting, carving, painting, transplanting, or knocking over, and includes but not limited to the following: injurious attachment of any rope, wire, nail, advertising poster, or other contrivance to any tree subject to the provisions of this article. Intentionally or negligently allowing any gaseous, liquid, or solid substance that is harmful to a tree to come into contact with the tree, setting fire or intentionally or negligently permitting any fire to burn when such fire or the heat therefrom will injure any part of the tree, pruning which in and of itself will kill or cause a tree to decline, or severing of all or part of the tree, which is highlighted in red because that's typically what we see in the city in terms of some of the practices that I'll describe in just a second. So now we just quickly want to go into best management practices, and this is what we're looking for if property owners, private citizens are going to prune their trees. So we require that a certified arborist prunes whenever that's done, but not just that, we need the certified arborist to contact us and give us a work plan for approval. So we know what they're doing, we know who's dealing with the trees, and we just can make sure to kind of keep tabs on it that way. So we follow really the standards and set out by the International Society of Arboriculture in terms of pruning trees. So pretty much you don't want to remove more than 25% of the tree during any year, so any one pruning and groaning cycle. And you also want to make sure that you're following the proper guidelines in terms of the structure of the tree. So you really want to keep that in mind when you're pruning. A lot of people will prune trees unfortunately back to branches that can't really support the rest of that branch or tree. So foliage on trees is really the most important thing in terms of giving the tree energy and food in order to seal up wounds, to grow more. So whenever you're removing too much of that canopy, that's really slowing down the growth of the tree. It's not allowing it to actually recover from the injury, which pruning in and of itself is an injury to the tree. There's lots of reasons why we prune, but you really want to be very strategic about the way you do it, because every time you cut a tree, no matter if it's for structure or aesthetics or anything like that, it is causing an injury to the tree. So you want to do it in a way that it causes the least amount of damage and allows that tree, based on how healthy it is, how big it is, where it is, to recover from that pruning. So what's at the second part of the slide, it talks about, you know, cutting back the tree to a lateral branch that has enough foliage to then continue to support the tree and to support that limb. So as I go into the next illegal practices about trees, you'll see an example of how and why that's so important. So just talking about illegal practices in the city, topping is one of the most detrimental things you can ever do to a tree. And I'll explain just in more detail right now with a couple slides. So it's basically cutting back a branch. They call it internodally. So you're often not cutting all the way back to a secondary branch or a lateral branch. You're just leaving a stub. So you're moving, you know, part or all of the tree and leaving these big stub cuts that are really difficult for a tree to actually heal and come back from. This is just an example of what can happen after you top a tree. So we see this all the time, and it is very common for trees, whenever they've had 100% of their canopy to be removed, that they kind of spring back and they push out a lot of new growth from those cuts. But unfortunately, this is very typical, and it's a stress response. So this kind of foliage that bounces back, a lot of people look at it and they're like, hey, you know, the tree's alive, it's going to be fine, it's got more foliage. Unfortunately, it's a major stress response, and often those branches are coming out, as you can see from this picture, at really odd parts of the branch. They're coming out of what they call epicormic sprouts. So it's sprouts that were activated whenever the ends of the branches were trimmed off. It's really when the tree has been told, I don't have anything left, I need to send out as many branches as possible so I can start making food for myself again, giving myself energy so that it can seal those giant wounds that have been made on the branches. So it's a stress response. This is an example of a tree that eventually died after being topped, and you can see all of those sprouts coming out from the old cuts. So this is very typical, again, just sending out as much as it possibly can, as almost like a last ditch effort to seal those wounds. And unfortunately, when that happens, the tree is often taking energy that's been stored in the roots over time and just using it all up. And there are many species in the city that can come back from topping with this kind of sprouting foliage, and will come back year after year. However, over time, it's very likely that those trees will decline and often die. And there's also other consequences that happen whenever you top trees. So if they do continue on living and continue to make, larger branches, there are some species that can deal with this kind of aggressive pruning. The other problem lies with the long-term effects. So here you can see an old topping cut that has, sent out all those sprouts. And unfortunately, over time, those sprouts have turned into giant branches. And when you have that many branches coming out of the same cut from the same area on the tree, it can often create very weakly attached branches. So most of those branches are only attached with solid wood for a very small amount of their diameter. The rest is included bark, and that it's basically there's bark in the crotch of the branch. So whenever there's force on the outer areas of the branch, it can actually pull those branches apart. And I'm sure lots of people have seen this in the city where trees, you can see them split apart. And that's often because either it wasn't, pruned when it was younger and had bad structure, or in most cases, it's because somebody made a bad pruning cut and they didn't correct the structure in the long run. So it just creates a lot of maintenance issues and hazardous situations. This is another example of what can happen with pruning cuts if the tree cannot produce enough foliage afterwards to close the injury. Then it can often allow pathogens decay to take hold in the tree. And just over time, it depends on the species, but over time, these trees often decline and die, or just decline to the point where they need to be removed to avoid hazardous situations. So just a couple instances where you see stuff that does look like topping that actually is not something we would fine for. So you see in the city, the trees in front of City Hall are what we call pollarded trees. So this is can only be performed on certain species of tree. It's deciduous trees that have a dormant cycle. It basically involves pruning off the new sprouts every year, and it creates these sort of knobbly, ends to the branches. That's an accepted practice in the city because the way the tree's cycle works, it doesn't rob so much energy from the tree, but it is different than topping. So it looks similar, but is very different. And then another instance where you might see topping in the city is for high voltage power lines. So PG&E in certain cases where unfortunately perhaps a tree that was too large for the space has been planted. If it comes within 18 inches of those high voltage lines, they have to prune the tree back. So that can result in topping sometimes. However, it is very different from a tree growing around low voltage power lines, communication lines, and service drops. We do not prune for those. So trees can often grow around those lines without any issue. They don't really pose a major hazard around those lines. We do not prune for them. So just a very quick overview for all of the participants here who might want to know more about what's going on with pruning in the city and why we are issuing these fines and why we're trying to ask people to actually let the city prune the trees. So in 2016, a ballot measure was passed, a voter approved ballot measure, which is now turned into the program Street Tree SF. It transferred the responsibility for maintaining street trees and repairing tree related sidewalk damage from property owners to the city. The passing of this measure created Street Tree SF. It's basically a $19 million set aside from the city's general fund to fund the maintenance of street trees. So in preparation for this, we created a tree census. A tree census was done and it inventoried all of the nearly 125,000 trees in the city. This is just a map of all of the street trees in the city. And then with that, the census data, it's being used to populate a routine proactive tree pruning schedule for the city's nearly 125,000 street trees. The data has allowed us to prioritize areas of the city where the need for tree maintenance is the highest, allowing us to allocate resources to those areas first. And that is kind of what you see on the screen is the red squares, going all the way to green, which is the least. And it's just important to note that safety is really our number one priority in terms of pruning. That's mainly why, we're maintaining the street trees. Let's see. So pruning and removals are underway already. It's been going on since July 1st of 2017 when it took effect. Since the start of that program, about 22% of the it was 24%, sorry, it's gone up, of the total tree maintenance needs have been addressed by contractors and city arborists. More than 30,000 trees have been pruned and more than 3,000 at-risk trees have been removed. And this is just a slide. If you want to know more about the schedule, you can always reach out to us, or you can go to streettreesf.org to type in your address and find out when we're going to be in that area of the city. And we also want to make it clear that if you believe there is a hazard, or if you would like an inspection of your tree to see if it can be expedited, it's very rare that we can do that outside of the schedule, but we're not going to ignore property owners and residents who have a concern about a tree, and we'll always come out and take a look for you. So before crews begin the maintenance work, we're always trying to let people know what's going on. So we hand out door hangers informing people about the work and the time frame of the work, when it will happen. When the crews are out in the field doing street tree SF work, signage with the program logo are displayed. All outreach material is in English, Chinese, and Spanish, and has contact information to reach Public Works with any questions or concerns. And then lastly, before I start on the first order, just want to tell everybody about our street tree care class. We offer this, and when attended, a reduction in the fine issued for illegal pruning or removal of street trees can usually be applied. We basically just want to go over the benefits of trees and why it's important to prune them properly and take care of them, that they're a public benefit and considered green infrastructure in the city. We talk more about the street tree SF program, and the class fee is $197, and it goes to the same adopted tree fund where the in lieu fees go. So with that, I'll just launch into the first order. It's order number 203850 for 2334 35th Avenue. An appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 2334 35th Avenue. And the fine levied for the illegal pruning is $2,193. This is a very straightforward case of illegal topping, just kind of like how I described. This is a small stature, because it's been kept small, Metrosideros excelsa, or New Zealand Christmas tree. You can see what it looked like before, and what our inspector found after the pruning. So this just falls within our category for injury of a tree, and because of that, we levied a fine of $2,193. So that is pretty much it for this case.
If there is a member of the public who would like to speak, please raise your hand and we'll allow you to speak. The property owner or someone from the community on order number 203851, go ahead and raise your hand in the room by, if you dialed in, I believe it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And Cerise will correct me if I have that mixed.
It's actually order number 203850.
Okay. And it is to raise your hand, the attendees would need to *9 if they dialed in, correct?
Oh, it is, yes, that's correct, *9.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking in the, we have, there is, I believe it's Arlette Hanson. Cerise, do you want to?
Am I, okay.
Yep. No.
Oh, no.
It looks like.
You want me to do it?
I can do it. Arlette, we have to promote you to a panelist to, because of the version of Zoom you're using. So go ahead, whenever you're ready, unmute your mic and go ahead. You'll have 3 minutes once we get you going. Arlette, you're ready. You're live. Hi, Arlette. There you go. Can you hear us? We can see you. We just can't hear you. I'm guessing from the phone that you're going to call in. Well, we see you, Arlette. It looks like you're having some technical challenges. We'll just give you a moment here to get that going.
I also have a photo that was sent in, I think by Arlette, of the tree in its current state. So I could share the screen. If I'll wait until I get the confirmation from her.
Okay, and Arlette, if you have the agenda and you want to dial in with your phone, that way we can hear you, that's an option as well. Because we see you, we just don't hear you. You can also type comments in the chat. Could you possibly wave at the screen and let us know if you're hearing us at all? Okay.
Here, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Yay.
Okay, good. Here's Arlette Hansen.
Okay. Hi, Ms. Hansen.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
I am.
We're ready to hear you. You have 3 minutes. We'll go ahead and start.
You have 3 minutes. Go ahead, tell your story. Oh, before she begins, you didn't include the picture that we sent yesterday that Madeline said would be included about what the tree looks like today.
Okay, Madeline can put that up. She did get the picture. Go ahead, Madeline.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Mom. You have to speak to the phone.
Sir, I didn't know any story about the nature of the trees, and I don't feel guilty at all, and I will not do again. And I have did that because I am legally blind. I cannot see, and the tree was facing like if it was against the window, and I could not see anything. Natural light, no natural light. I'm confined in my house for so long, and I cannot see. I cannot distinguish anything. But there, when I cut the tree, finally I could see the street a little bit, distinguish something, and the light came through my dining room that I was sitting all alone, and give light to my house.
You've been taking care of the tree for 48 years. 48 years. Come on, go.
So I am shocked that I did something bad. I didn't know the tree was bad like that when I took care for 48 years. I took care of that tree, and it went slowly, and it blew like you saw the last picture the inspector saw. It's beautiful. I like the tree. I like the trees. I know they give oxygen, but it's a matter of seeing. I could not see anything, nothing. I'm confined inside of the room there, no light, no natural light at all.
And the emotional stress.
And today I am grieving the death of my son that died of brain cancer. And I got that bill. I was wondering what it's all about. I cannot afford that thing.
It's 10:30.
So I didn't feel guilty now. I will never do again. That for sure. I'm so sorry about that, but that's the way it is. I'll follow the law all the time. By the way, that tree was put by, all those trees were set by my son as a community service. The first week that it was planted, some person broke the branch, and we put at the garden. We plant that branch at the garden, and you should see how the tree is big, huge. And the neighbor even put a branch from that tree. And it planted, and we have 2 big trees now of the same one. It's not that I don't love the tree. I do love the tree. But it's a matter of seeing something from the street, from the light in my house. I am confined inside. I am 89 years old and legally blind. It's barely, I have 2 points of not seeing at all. So I wish you to understand that this, make that thing a warning, I will not do again. Please,
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. That's your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
All right, and did
Robin,
does the hearing officer have any questions for the appellant or for Buff before we move to the next item?
Yes, Madeline, does the tree, with the leaves now, look like it would survive?
Metrosideros excelsa, the New Zealand Christmas tree, are a species that do respond, I would say, better to topping than other species. Like they can come back. But unfortunately, because of the way this basically creates a really high maintenance situation where it now needs to either be restructured pruning or continually topped. So I don't have like a lot of confidence in this tree's long-term ability to survive. It's likely that it will kind of just struggle along. It could survive for years, but the long-term maintenance issue is kind of more concerning for us in terms of this topping because if the property changes hands and Ms. Hanson does stop maintaining the tree, where these sprouts come out will eventually become hazardous situations because they're all sprouting out from the same spot, kind of like what I showed in the beginning of the presentation. So yes, I think it will survive, but there's some other long-term consequences that we have to deal with.
Understood. That's it for me.
Okay, then we will go on to the next order. Go ahead, Madeline.
Okay, so this was order number 203851, and this order is actually going to be postponed because the appellant couldn't make the hearing date. So I am, if it's okay, I'm just going to skip to the next order.
Okay.
So this is the next order, order number 203852, 553 15th Avenue, an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for failure to protect one street tree adjacent to 553 15th Avenue. The fine levied for failure to protect the street tree is $2,193. This is the tree. This is the Arbutus marina, the strawberry tree out front of 553 15th Avenue. I knew about this tree before this particular incident because the property owner did originally apply for a removal permit to remove the tree due to construction issues. I believe it was utility clearances, and also because the tree was in poor health. When I originally did the inspection, I did find some insect issues, but I would not classify the tree as being in poor health. It's actually doing quite well, especially for this type of species in this neighborhood. So we eventually denied the tree, and it was appealed. It went to a hearing, and the hearing officer did uphold our denial, and we were tasked with reviewing the tree after 6 months and kind of monitoring the tree to make sure it didn't have further decline in health. And at that point, we might reassess it. But after I did a second inspection, determined it was still healthy. And eventually the order was issued to retain the tree. So on another inspection, there was just more reports of, construction ongoing. Oh, sorry, to back up a little bit. before this inspection in September, there were reports that the tree wasn't being protected during construction. So I'm in contact with the property owner and just, made it clear, like, you need to have the protective border around the tree, explaining just, the ins and outs of making sure the tree is protected during construction. And we do this all the time. It's typical that you need to make sure that the tree is protected while work is going on around it. So I came on reports that there was just more construction happening and there was some concerned folks on the block. And when I got there, I did find that unfortunately the concrete contractor, EF Gomez, had severed at least 3 large diameter roots within 2 feet of the tree's trunk. So that area is what we call the critical root zone. We really try to not mess with it as much as possible. It is very difficult in urban environments to not work in the critical root zone, but it is imperative that contractors and property owners make sure to contact us when they're going to discuss root pruning before doing it, because there are certain types of root pruning that can be very dangerous and also just really detrimental for the tree's health. So this is the sidewalk before, and then during construction, which is why the roots were pruned. There was uplift in the sidewalk, and often we do approve root pruning in situations where sidewalk repair needs to occur. However, I would not have approved pruning of the roots of this large of diameter. It's about 3 to 5 inches. I'm going to show some pictures. It's a little hard to see, but I tried to circle the roots so you can get a better idea of how big the roots are. And you can see from the previous slide how close they are to the tree's trunk. So here's just some pictures of the roots. And while I don't believe that this tree is imminent hazard, often if you prune roots that close to the tree, it can be hazardous because it has the potential to destabilize the entire tree, because these are the large structural roots near the base of the tree. We call them buttress roots. However, there were roots intact on other sides of the tree, so we try to make the determination, if there's enough roots intact to not create a hazard, then we're not going to post the tree for removal. But I just made it clear that I'll need to have to fine for this kind of thing, and need to monitor the tree to see if it declines because of this root pruning. It is just some major wounds that the tree, which is already a little stressed out from various reasons, you'll have to use energy to seal up these wounds, and they're quite large. So that's pretty much it for this one.
Okay, is the a member of there's Melissa. You have your hand up, Melissa. Go ahead and unmute your phone and go ahead. If you have something to share and you need to have us put it up on the screen, just let me know.
No, I think that you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
I think Madeline took the adequate pictures. I would go back probably to reference the other photo that kind of shows the raised concrete. And what you see is, this kind of bulbous part of the root that went over the cement. And so when EF Gomez, the company we hired to replace the raised sidewalk, we chose to go ahead and pay for that ourselves. What you see there to the right of it is also the gas line that comes into our property. And so when they removed that piece of cement, they actually, that part going over it, they didn't touch it at all. There wasn't one cut into that. They really carefully actually pulled that out. But it wasn't until I came outside and I saw that they had cut part of the tree on the root. And I said, I made sure in many, many ways, even with my general contractor, that make sure you guys know, don't cut any part of this tree. We have to call Public Works if you cut any part of the tree. And I let them know this, and they said, yeah, we understand. Look, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. We're just going to fix where it's raising the sidewalk. And E.F. Gomez works all over the city, and I trusted them because they've been all throughout the city. That I found them because they worked on another property near another home that I own. You know, when I came out, I saw that they had cut part of the route. And because I have a neighbor 2 doors down that files a complaint against us for every single thing that she is concerned about. And so the city does come out on a regular basis. Sorry, I don't know. My computer's trying to have me install Flash. I think, did I just lose you guys?
No, we hear
can
you.
hear you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, Mike.
We still have 1 minute.
So, I mean, I spoke to them and I told them, you know, don't cut anything. So it wasn't, we did not act maliciously. We were not intentional in doing anything. Anytime Madeline came out and told us to protect the tree, I immediately went to my contractor and I said, listen, the city said you need to do this. I asked them to do it. He went and took care of it. If it wasn't the way Madeline asked us to it, I went back to them and asked them to fix it. Anytime the city asked us to do something, we did it. We never ignored any request of theirs. So we weren't malicious. We weren't intentional in trying to hurt this tree. In fact, we've given the root area at the base more space by 10 inches to grow even more. So in the future, it's not going to raise the sidewalk, hopefully, ever again, because we've given it a lot more space to grow and loosened it up around that. If you were to take a picture of it now, you would see that we've given it so much more space and it's not growing up against cement.
Okay.
So I just want to say really quickly, so my understanding was that E.F. Gomez, they're the ones that cut it. I didn't cut it. I didn't ask them to cut it. They cut it. And so I understand the city's policy is that they're not the ones to be fined. I'm the one to be fined. But I'm just appealing this because we did everything we thought we were supposed to do. We tried in every single way to be careful with this tree. And, you know, we take care of the tree and we're putting our proposal up together for the arborist who will be cleaning out all of the dead stuff in the center of the tree from the thrift infestation. And we'll be submitting that in a week or so. So we're doing everything we can, considering now that the city has ruled that we have to keep the tree. So I just feel that this fine is unfair because we've done everything we thought we were supposed to do. And we were not malicious in anything we were trying to do. We've been trying to work with Madeline in every way that she's told us to.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, does the hearing officer have any questions for Buff, or shall we move to the next?
We can move to the next.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. This is order number 203853, an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal for one street tree adjacent to 166 Albion Street. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $18,800. So this is a photo of the tree before it was removed. It's a large, mature Melaleuca linearifolia or flax leaf paperbark tree. The reason why the fine is a different amount than our typical fine because when a tree obviously exceeds the value of our base fine, we often appraise the tree for its actual value and issue a fine for that, especially if it's been fully removed or destroyed. So this is just a snapshot of what we use is the Guide for Plant Appraisal, the 10th edition. This was a 31-inch DBH flaxleaf paperbark, so it's a very large stature Melaleuca linearifolia. And the way we appraise trees is just basically calculating up their value and then, you know, deducting any value for defects that we find. So I do believe that this fine was lowered from the original amount based on defects that were found in the tree by the property owner's gardener prior to the removal. So, you know, past photos were taken into account to try and get an accurate valuation of the tree. It came out to be $18,800. So that's just a little background for the appraisal values that we do. This was reported to us, I think it was through a service request, that the tree was being removed. And these are just images of the trees being removed during the act. And I believe one of the reasonings behind the tree removal was that it was causing some issues with the service drops or the electrics on the outside of the building. You can kind of see, I don't know if I can zoom in on this, probably not, but from the side of the blue building, you can see that the wires had been sort of pulled off the building. So this was cited as one of the reasons. I believe that they're originally going to just prune the tree, and then the contractor decided, due to health reasons and also because of this electric issue, that they were just going to remove it. But unfortunately, that's just, unfortunately, you know, you need a permit to remove a tree. And based on past pictures, this is not a situation where the issues or the hazard warranted the tree removal. This tree was sustainable. It could have been left there, and the electrics issue dealt with pruning. So we believe it wasn't illegal. It wasn't an illegal removal and could have been avoided. And just to point out that recently our inspector dealing with this fine did visit the property, and it appears that the electric issues have not been dealt with. So that's just something we wanted to bring up with the appellant about, like, why they haven't been dealt with. But they have replaced the tree with a new tree, which would be part of the requirement if they hadn't already done it. And this property was shortly put on the market after the tree was removed. So the property owner has changed, but I do believe that the original property owner, the appellant, is in attendance. So that's pretty much it for this one.
Okay, and does the appellant want to speak? You can raise your hand if you'd like. There you go. That's Carl. Carl's using an older version, so we'll promote you to panelist, Carl. All right, Carl, just go ahead and unmute.
Hey gang, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry, Madeline, do you happen to have the pictures that I shared with Stephen months back on the damage to the tree or the entanglement of the electrical wires?
Yes, let me grab it real quick. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll pull it back up.
Okay.
Hang on just one moment.
Another FYI, the
If
picture.
you have, Madeline, if Carl has it on his screen, he can share it as well.
I apologize. I didn't come prepared to that.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay.
That's okay. I think I can grab it. I believe I have it. Just hang on just one moment.
And a minor FYI, but the picture you're showing is not the tree that was removed. Like, that's the neighbor's tree. The one in front of the brick building.
Oh, it's the one behind it. I'm sorry about that.
I mean, yeah, they're similar trees, so probably 6 to 1/2 dozen the other, but while she's pulling that up, I mean, pretty similar to the case before it. This is one where really, you know, I can't defend my own ignorance, and I apologize that I wasn't aware of all the great materials that you guys presented at the outset of this webinar. But there really wasn't any intentional malice or negligence on my part with the removal here. I'm sure Stephen with the forestry department has our discussions on file, and hopefully those are part of what you guys have been able to review in advance. But this was really just a situation where the electrical wiring, to clarify, that's not attached to my house, it's the neighbor's wiring, which is part of the problem. We repeatedly kind of tried to warn the neighbor, like, hey, the tree on our property is entangled with your wires. Can you do something about that? Can you look into that? When I first bought the house a couple of years ago, we reached out to the city through 311. Again, apologies, I didn't realize there was a different or direct line to the forestry department. And they responded and said, this isn't our problem to fix the electrical wiring issue. Contact PG&E, which we tried to do several times for several years. And PG&E never came out to look at the tree or prune the tree or do anything. We put the house on the market. While it was on the market, right, we were getting repeated requests for like, look, you're going to need to fix this, you're going to need to address it, or you won't be able to sell the property. The neighbor's wires are entangled in the tree. So we called an arborist tree pruner to come out over the weekend to look at trimming the tree. And that's where kind of the house of cards fell apart. There's a picture of, some years before, somebody seems to have set like a fire in the tree. So the tree was not exactly in the greatest state, and felt like it was already in the process of dying. I'm not a professional, but these are all the things that kind of went into the decision-making process as it went down. It was entangled in electrical wires. We tried to have it pruned. And then when we actually had the tree trimmer show up, unfortunately, I was not at the property like while all this happened, so it was confusion over the phone. But they basically called and said, look, there's no safe way for us to prune around the electrical issue. Like we think you need to take the tree down. And they were pointing out that it was already damaged and could collapse. So they just proposed taking it down entirely. I gave them the green light on the phone to go ahead and proceed with taking it down, and really the rest is history. So again, yeah, really wasn't a case of malice on my part. Had I known the process of getting a permit, I would have gone through it. But it's my belief that we would have probably had the same outcome here, that the tree had existing damage and needed to come down. But yeah, that's the situation on my side. Are there any questions I can answer?
Hearing Officer Park, do you have any questions for the appellant before we move to the next order? And thank you, Carl.
I guess minor point to add, yeah, as Madeline noted, like, it was certainly less than ideal that the tree came down, and we obviously immediately moved to have it replaced with one of the city approved trees before we even knew that there was a complaint filed with the city. So we were trying to kind of take the best course. Hopefully there's evidence of good intent here.
Okay, thank you.
I think Robin might be frozen. Oh, here.
Yeah, we lost her video. And Cerise, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, there's Robin. Okay.
All right.
There she is.
Okay. Robin, were you able to hear?
Robin,
You're on mute.
I actually, my internet went out, but I did hear both the appellant and Madeline, so I'm good.
Okay.
all right, Madeline, go ahead with the next order, please.
Thank you,
Okay,
Carl.
thank you. Okay, and I believe this is the second to last one. This is order number 203854, an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 878 Rhode Island Street. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $2,122. I believe this was also reported to us from a service request, and it was, I believe, while the property was under construction. So this is just the tree before, and then the tree after it was removed. And so the fine was issued for illegal removal because there's no removal permit on file. And I did want to note that as part of the fine being issued, we did give a warning for tree protection during construction, because I believe there were some injuries to the lower limbs of this other tree, or perhaps the large machinery was getting really close. So we always just try to, let people know you really need to put tree protection up. It's required, and we will fine you. If we come back and it's not up in a timely manner. And just wanted to make note of that as well. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, is someone the appellant? Okay, there she, that's Jeanette. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Jeanette, we can hear you.
Hi, I just wanted to say first, I'm obviously really sorry about the tree. This unfortunately occurred during the early stages of COVID, and we were trying to contact DPW just to figure out what we could do. I did share a photo just a couple minutes ago to show kind of a more recent photo of what the tree was looking like before it was actually removed. I'm assuming you guys can look at that maybe later on, but we'd love to plant a tree in the rear yard or figure out some other way that we could kind of make this whole. It was basically confusion that happened between the contractor that was working at the site at the time, and we were trying to stay away because it was, again, it was super early during the COVID when we weren't trying to be at the job site. And they were, it was a weird time because at first, like, the city had said no construction, then there was construction, and it was all these things going on. It was just, I mean, we've never been in this position, so it was just a lot going on.
Okay, does the hearing officer have any questions, or is there anything more you'd like to add, Jeanette?
No, I think I'm okay.
Actually,
Go ahead, hearing officer.
that photo that you're speaking of, the photo that you're.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
So the photo that you just spoke of, who did you send that
I
to?
just sent it to Urban Forestry, Marcus, and then I don't know how to say his name, Cerise, Cerise.
It's Cerise, and she's the clerk here.
Cerise, that's me.
Cerise, so Jeanette, do you have it in front of you on your screen? We can allow you to share your screen if you'd like, rather than, or if Madeline can probably pull it up from or someone, but we could share your screen if you'd like.
I'd rather not share my screen just because I have a lot of work.
Okay, all right. Well, Madeline, do you think you can get it up to the, or Cerise, is it in your email?
Yeah, Cerise, if you want to forward it to me, I can pop it up there.
I would have to look back through my email and everything. You say you emailed it, or?
Yeah, it came in 13 minutes ago on my side, it looks, and I put in the subject line 878 Rhode Island Street and the hearing number.
Okay, well, I will look for that, and then I will have it forwarded to the hearing officer. Okay.
I have a question for Madeline. My internet was cutting in and out earlier when you were talking about the tree and the damage. Did you say there was some damage caused to the tree next to the tree that was removed?
I need to confirm that because I wasn't the inspector dealing with this case, but on the fine issued, it did say to avoid further damage to lower limbs. So I took that language as assuming that there had been damage done, but I would need to confirm it.
I just, for the record, I was not aware of that. There is protection up. There is a bus stop right there, which we do have a lot of issues with, unfortunately, right outside our building. But yeah, there's no damage to that tree. That tree has always been healthier than the other one for whatever reason.
Sure. Yeah, we can confirm. It might just be like superficial damage to the cambium of a lower branch or something like that. Sometimes it's hard to spot, but it might have just been a warning to avoid damage in the future. Just need to confirm.
Okay, if the hearing officer would like to add any other questions, we can move to the next item.
Okay, yes, I'm done.
Jeanette, you're done as well?
Well, on this photo that Madeline's sharing, I don't really see tree protection on the tree that's still standing behind the porta potty. So that's why I was wondering.
There is tree protection now.
I'm sorry, I was trying to get mine up.
And I can follow up about this case as well.
All right, then yeah, I will follow up with you, Madeline, then.
Okay.
We could go to the next order then.
Okay, this is the final order. It's order number 203855, an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of one significant tree on private property at 16 Merced Avenue. And the fine levied for the illegal removal is $2,122. And I'll just explain quickly what a significant tree is as opposed to a street tree. Significant trees are trees that fall within 10 feet of the public right of way. So they're on private property, but they have protection under the urban forestry ordinance. So similar to a street tree, except for we don't typically prune them, or we don't prune them, but they do need a removal permit, and they need approval for pruning. So the property owner, I think it was again reported with a service request, property owner removed a significant multi-stem holly tree without a permit. The public right-of-way here is 12 feet from the curb, so the tree falls within 10 feet of the public right-of-way and is considered significant. Significant trees also have to meet a certain requirement for size, so it's not just any tree. It's not like a tiny, newly planted tree. Eventually that will become a significant tree, but I believe this met the requirement for DBH, diameter at breast height. So kind of the trunk diameter, if you add all the trunks up. And then I also believe it met it because of canopy size. So here's the tree before. And then here is it removed. I believe the property was put on the market after this occurred, and just want to make it clear that with all of these cases, a lot of times we just let people know that it is the property owner's responsibility to know the city ordinance and codes before they embark on these projects. So just making sure they do their due diligence to follow up, with all the requirements to remove or make, changes on their frontage. It's also important because I think quite a few of these cases for this hearing dealt with tree work that was done not by certified arborists. And it is required that certified arborists do tree work in the city. And as you can see with a lot of these instances, it falls unfortunately back on the property owner when contractors are working out of class and they're doing things like root pruning or tree removal or tree pruning when they're not actually certified to do that work. So in those situations, we do find the property owner, but then it's up to the property owner to kind of dispute it with their contractor. So yeah, we receive calls all the time about what to do in these situations, and we just want to make it clear that it is the responsibility of the property owner to determine like what is required for these. And so we're going to require a replacement here, and just making it clear it's separate from the fine consideration. And that is it for this one.
Okay, looks like we have Olga Pressler from the appellant. Go ahead and unmute if you.
Yes, hi. This is actually Val Pressler. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. Olga is actually stuck on meetings, so I'm covering for her. So first of all, we'd like to obviously extend our apologies in regards to the apparent improper handling of the tree removal process and the fact that the tree had to be removed. We're property owners in San Francisco who care and love our community and believe that all planted trees, plants, and flowers bring beauty, purpose, uniqueness, and tranquility to our city and its green movement. That said, we do believe we have a somewhat valid excuse for the tree removal. And hopefully these reasons can be considered and evaluated. Throughout our ownership of the property, we had various issues with this tree, which unfortunately caused a lot of issues with, the sprinkler system and stuff like that. In 2010, our landscaper who was working on the property said that the tree was rotting and decaying from inside out. Throughout the year, in various times. I don't recall exactly what times of the year, but it would go dead. So we had to do a lot of maintenance, and it would kind of spring back to life. We had a lot of branches fall on the pedestrian walkway, and we did have a few complaints from neighbors or pedestrians that said that, some branches were hanging low and, in the way of their walkway. So that was definitely a public hazard. When the property was placed on the market and we laid down the grass, the landscaper discovered that the roots of the tree broke the underground sprinkler system, which cost us over $1,000 to fix that. We obviously wanted, to fix the issue. We wanted to make the tree, survive. And we asked our landscaper, who was working on the property at that time, what could be done. And in his opinion, he said that there was nothing we could do to save it. So we decided, what would be the other option to do? And he said, we can remove the tree and that would fix the issue. Obviously, in hindsight, we wish we would have done more research. We weren't aware of the regulations and rules concerning the tree removals of the property. And obviously, had we known that it can be removed like this, we would have, done it differently. It was not our intention to remove the tree illegally. So we obviously feel really bad about it. And ignorance is not an excuse. We should have done more research. And next time, after this meeting, after all your, valuable information, we know this. And next time around, we definitely will have more stuff to research and ask and do it the proper way. We hope that these facts can be taken into account and that you guys can show leniency in our case. We were also, working through the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of people were unreachable. We actually did call the Friends of the Forestry, I believe, the place that plants new trees. And they said that they were so busy that it would be 2021 that they can even consider our case. So that's pretty much it for us. Once again, it wasn't our intention to do it on purpose. We're sorry, and hopefully you guys can, give us a little bit of a break here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madeline or Robin, did you have any questions for the appellant or anything to add or follow up on?
I do not.
I do not either.
Okay. Just giving the community give a minute or so if anybody left that wants to comment. And then if you'd like to go ahead and close out the hearing, Robin, go ahead and do that, and then we will end the recording. For members of the community, the recording will be available online in about 24 hours.
Anybody? Do you guys see anybody? Serious and Clint?
Sort of giving one last shot to anyone here before we close the hearing.
Okay.
I would say go ahead, Officer Park.
Okay, so if there are no more comments for this items on this hearing, I'll now close the items and we'll make my recommendations to the director. Question for Clint and Cerise. Is there a time limit for my recommendations?
Usually we say within 2 weeks or so, you would give your decision to the director and then the director will give it to us.
So I will make
your recommendation. I'm sorry, your recommendation.
Yes, I'll make the recommendations shortly, and I'll make that 2 weeks time. Thank you.
Okay.
I think that's it for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.